In the quiet of the early morning, before the sun begins its slow ascent into the sky, there is a stillness that echoes something ancient, something sacred. It is in this silence that the truth waits, softly, patiently, not hidden, but simply unnoticed by the eyes that have been trained to look elsewhere. We live in an age of noise, the noise of ambition, of craving, of endless wanting. And in this noise, happiness has been sold to us as something to chase, a goal, a product, a destination. But the Buddha never described happiness that way. He never promised us comfort or luxury, or the absence of all suffering. What he offered was something infinitely more precious. A path, a way of being that dissolves suffering not by escaping it, but by understanding it. Happiness, the Buddha taught, is not pleasure. It is not found in possessions, titles, or moments of indulgence. True happiness, sukha, is the freedom from attachment, the serenity that comes when we no longer demand that life fulfill our fantasies. This truth is difficult to swallow, because we have been raised to believe that our peace lies outside of us. We believe that when we achieve this goal, when we meet that person, when we fix our body or gain that recognition, then we will be happy. But the Dharma pierces this illusion with the sharp blade of wisdom. All that arises will pass away. The Buddha said, "Do not seek for permanence in that which is impermanent." So what then is left? If the world of form is unreliable, if everything is in constant flux, what can we rest upon? The answer is awareness. The space behind all things, the observed, the clarity of mind that neither clings nor resists, but simply sees. Right view, the first step on the Noble Eightfold Path, is not merely about having the correct philosophy. It is a revolution in perception. It is seeing clearly that suffering arises from craving, and that there is a way to be free. But the problem is, most of us don't want to see clearly. We want to feel good, and in that wanting we become blind. We medicate our discomfort with distractions, scrolling, buying, comparing, escaping. But the discomfort doesn't go away. It only waits. And so we arrive here again and again, tired, confused, asking, why, with all that I have, am I still not at peace? The Buddha would smile, not with mockery, but with infinite compassion. And he would tell you gently, because you have mistaken the shadow for the substance. You are holding smoke and wondering why it does not satisfy your thirst. There is no reprimand in his words. Only invitation, an invitation to begin again, not with shame, but with curiosity. So let us begin. Let us begin not by running away from our suffering, but by sitting with it, listening to it, understanding its shape, its texture, its rhythm. For suffering is not our enemy. It is our teacher. And when we stop resisting, something extraordinary happens. The heart softens. The mind clears, and in that space, wisdom is born. Wisdom, in the Buddhist sense, is not knowing more. It is seeing differently. It is the deep and intuitive understanding that arises when the mind is no longer clouded by greed, hatred, or delusion. And to arrive at this seeing, we must question the core of our existence. We must look into the mirror of our minds and ask, who am I beneath all these roles, these stories, these masks? What remains when the titles are stripped away, when the praise fades, when the body ages, and the world forgets my name? In that inquiry, we uncover the most liberating truth of all, that we are not the thoughts that pass through us. We are not the emotions that rise and fall like waves. We are the awareness in which all of this unfolds. And when we recognize that truly deeply, we begin to let go of the need to control, let go of the fear of not being enough, let go of the illusion that happiness lies somewhere other than here, other than now. But this letting go is not passive. It is not resignation. It is active, courageous, fierce. It requires discipline, not the discipline of rigidity, but the discipline of returning again and again to the present moment, to return when the mind wanders, to return when the heart is heavy, to return when it feels easier to give in to the old patterns. This is the training of the mind, like a musician tuning an instrument. We train our attention to rest in stillness, like a warrior honing their skill. We train our responses to arise from wisdom, not reactivity. And this training is not just for monks on distant mountaintops. It is for you. It is for now. It is for the everyday moments where your patience is tested, where your ego is bruised, where your heart is aching. It is in those moments that the Dharma becomes alive, not as an idea, but as a living truth. Because the truth does not need to be believed. It only needs to be seen. See how your thoughts arise from conditions. See how your suffering arises not from what is, but from your resistance to what is. See how peace begins not when life is perfect, but when your attachment to perfection dissolves. This is not poetry. It is not wishful thinking. It is the direct experience of millions who have walked the path before you. And it begins right here, with a breath, with a pause, with the willingness to ask, not what the world owes you, but who you are beneath all that you have been told to be. Who are you, truly, when the noise settles, when no one is watching, when nothing is left to prove? There is something within you, timeless, still untouched by success or failure. It is not your name, not your history, not even your thoughts. It is the quiet witness, the silent space in which every experience appears and dissolves. And until you begin to recognize this presence, you will forever be chasing shadows, seeking happiness in things that cannot hold it. The Buddha did not come to teach religion. He came to show us reality, to invite us to wake up. You see, we're all dreaming, not just at night, but in every waking moment when we identify with the stories in our heads. I am not enough. I must become something more. I must be loved to be complete. These beliefs, these illusions, are the prison bars we carry inside. We think they keep us safe, but really they keep us small. The truth is not always comfortable, but it is always liberating. And the truth is this: you are already whole, already complete, already enough. You do not need to earn your worth. You need only to remember it. This remembering is the heart of Buddhist wisdom. It is not about becoming someone better. It is about waking up from the trance of separation and returning to your true nature. This is why meditation is not escape. It is confrontation, a gentle confrontation with the illusions we have built our identities upon. As you sit, the mind will rebel. It will try to distract you. It will tell you that you're wasting time, that you're failing, that you're not doing it right. And yet, if you can stay, if you can sit with the restlessness, the fear, the discomfort, something begins to shift. The fog clears, the heart opens, the body softens, and you begin to see that beneath all the noise, there is a quiet joy, not the joy of stimulation, but the joy of presence. This joy is not dependent on what you have, but on how deeply you are here. Presence is the doorway to insight, and insight, vipassana, is the clear seeing into the nature of things, seeing that all phenomena are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. These three characteristics are not pessimistic. They are the very gateway to freedom. When you see that all things arise and pass, you stop clinging. You stop resisting. You let life flow through you like wind through a forest. And in that surrender there is peace. But to live this way requires tremendous courage, because it means giving up control. It means letting go of the identities you've spent your life constructing. It means choosing truth over comfort. And yet, When you do, you begin to experience a happiness that is not of this world, a quiet joy that arises not from getting what you want, but from no longer being a slave to wanting. You begin to walk with grace, not because life is easier, but because your heart is lighter. And as you walk this path, your inner world changes. You begin to trust in the unfolding. You begin to see that every challenge is a teacher, that every loss is a portal, that every ending carries within it the seed of awakening. This shift is not merely internal, it radiates outward. Your relationships change. You become less reactive, more compassionate. You stop needing people to be different, so you can feel okay. You allow them to be as they are. And in that allowance, love is born. Because love, in the Buddhist sense, is not possession, it is not attachment, it is not clinging, it is the wish for all beings to be free from suffering, including yourself. This is metta loving kindness, and it is one of the most transformative forces in existence. To cultivate metta is to look at another being and say, "May you be happy, may you be well, may you be free." And in that wish, even if only silently, you begin to dissolve the walls between self and other. You begin to understand that there is no you and them. There is only life, expressing itself in infinite form. And when you see this, truly see it, compassion arises, not as a moral duty, but as the natural response of an awakened heart. This is why the Buddha's path is not a path of rules, but a path of understanding. You don't follow precepts because someone told you to. You follow them because you see clearly the suffering that arises when you don't. You don't meditate because it's trendy. You meditate because you've tasted the madness of a mind untamed, and you long for stillness. You don't renounce the world out of disdain. You walk lightly because you finally understand that freedom is found not in holding on, but in letting go. And so we walk not away from life, but into it, with eyes open, with hearts steady, with a commitment to truth that no longer depends on external validation. The world will still challenge you. People will still disappoint you. Circumstances will still rise and fall, but you will be different. You will no longer be a leaf blown by the winds of opinion and desire. You will be the tree, rooted in presence, grounded in wisdom, reaching always toward compassion. This is not a distant ideal. It is your birthright. It is your nature. It is your path if you choose to walk. Confusion. There will be days when the heart feels wide open, and days when it contracts like a fist. There will be moments when you feel like you've touched the infinite, and moments when you feel lost, unworthy, small. But even these fluctuations are part of the way. Do not despair when darkness returns. The moon waxes and wanes, and yet its nature never changes. Your light, too, is constant beneath the clouds of thought and emotion. This is why the practice is not about perfection, it is about return, again and again, with gentleness, with honesty, with the quiet resolve of one who knows that truth is not somewhere else. It is here, now, in this breath. Let us speak now of discipline, a word often misunderstood. Discipline is not force, it is not punishment. In the Dharma, discipline is devotion. It is the willingness to honor your awakening above your impulses. It is remembering what truly matters, even when it is inconvenient or uncomfortable. It is easy to act wisely when everything is calm. The real test is in the fire. Can you stay grounded when provoked? Can you respond with compassion when faced with cruelty? Can you remain present when the old voices of fear and inadequacy rise to the surface? This is why the Buddha did not promise that life would become easy. He promised that we would become free. And freedom is not the absence of suffering. It is the capacity to meet suffering with wisdom and an open heart. In every moment we are training the mind. With every choice, every thought, every reaction, we are reinforcing patterns, some that lead to peace and some that deepen our suffering. The practice is to become aware of these patterns, to observe without judgment, To see, for instance, the anger not as something to act upon, but as a sensation arising, peaking and fading. To see craving not as something to follow blindly, but as a conditioned response that can be unlearned. And with this awareness, something miraculous happens. You begin to choose. No longer a prisoner to your conditioning, you become an architect of your inner world. You can choose patience. You can choose silence. You can choose forgiveness. You can choose to act not from fear, but from love. This is the power of mindfulness, not merely a tool for stress relief, but a path to liberation. It is the art of living with eyes open, heart open, feet firmly planted in the reality of this moment. And what is this moment if not the only place where life truly exists? The past is memory. The future is imagination. Only now is real. Only now is alive. This is why the Buddha emphasized right mindfulness, to remember the present, to remember who you are, to remember the truth in the midst of delusion. But mindfulness alone is not enough. Insight must be followed by action. Wisdom is not passive. It is expressed in how you live, how you speak, how you treat others, how you care for yourself and the world around you. This is the meaning of karma, not punishment or reward from some external force, but the natural unfolding of cause and effect. Every thought, every word, every deed plants a seed, and from those seeds our life blossoms. So ask yourself, what am I planting today? Are my words rooted in truth and kindness? Are my actions guided by compassion? Am I building a world that reflects the clarity of my inner vision? This is not about being perfect. It is about being sincere. It is about aligning your life with your deepest values, moment by moment. And in doing so you become a beacon, not by trying to change others, but by embodying the peace you have found within. There is a quiet strength in those who walk this path. They do not need to prove, to preach, to conquer. Their presence speaks, their silence heals, their joy is unshakable, not because nothing touches them, but because they no longer resist the flow of life. This is what it means to live with purpose, not a grand mission, not a resi appeasement, but the simple and profound intention to reduce suffering, to increase understanding, to be awake in each breath. And from this purpose flows gratitude, not as a forced sentiment, but as a natural response to the miracle of being alive. To feel the sun on your skin, to hear the wind moving through the trees, to hold the hand of someone you love, to breathe, to cry, to laugh, to fall down and rise again. How could we not be grateful? Gratitude softens the heart. It cuts through entitlement. It brings humility to our achievements and tenderness to our struggles. Even in pain, there can be gratitude for the lesson, for the growth, for the deepening of our capacity to feel. And when gratitude becomes your lens, everything becomes sacred. Every moment becomes a gift. Even the ordinary becomes luminous. But we must train the heart to see this. We must practice, not because life demands it, but because we long to remember who we are. And in this remembering, we cultivate not only peace, but also resilience. Resilience is not the absence of hardship. It is the capacity to remain open through it. It is to walk through the storm without closing your heart, to be hurt, and still choose to love, to fall, and still rise again. Not harder but wiser, not colder but kinder. This is the beauty of the path. It does not require that you become someone else. It asks only that you be fully who you are, with courage, with honesty, with presence. Because when you see clearly, when you act from wisdom, when you rest in awareness, when you love without attachment, then you are free. Not someday, not when conditions align, but now. Now, freedom is not a distant shore you must swim toward. It is the water you are already in, but you have been taught to fear it. You have been told to chase the shore, to strive, to achieve, to earn your rest. And so you swim endlessly, exhausting yourself in search of a happiness that was never separate from you. The Buddha sitting beneath the Bodhi tree was not granted peace by the universe. He uncovered it, patiently, silently, by turning inward, by watching the breath, the thoughts, the cravings, the fears, and in that observation he saw the truth, that suffering exists, that it has a cause, that it can end, and that there is a path to that end. This is not mythology. It is a mirror. You too are sitting beneath your own Bodhi tree. Every day, every breath, every moment is an invitation to awaken. But awakening does not shout. It whispers. You must be quiet enough to hear it. And to become quiet, we must cultivate clarity. The clear seeing that arises when we stop coloring reality with our projections and preferences. Clarity is a gift, but also a discipline. It demands that we let go of the stories we tell ourselves, stories about who we are, about what should be, about what others must do for us to be happy. We must question, is this thought true? Is this reaction helpful? Is this belief kind? Most of our suffering does not come from the events themselves, but from the meaning we assign them. We are not hurt by what is, but by what we imagine it means. Clarity cuts through this. It brings light into the cave. It shows us that the monster we feared was only a shadow, born of misunderstanding, and with clarity comes adaptability, the graceful ability to move with life, rather than against it. To be adaptable is not to be passive, it is to be wise. To understand that resistance creates tension, but surrender creates flow. Not a surrender of defeat, but a surrender of illusion. When plans fall apart, we breathe. When expectations are unmet, we soften. When life changes, and it always does, we adjust, not out of weakness, but out of deep alignment with the truth of impermanence. This is not a denial of grief, it is an honoring of grief without drowning in it. This is not detachment in the cold sense, it is a loving spaciousness, a freedom to feel everything, and to cling to nothing. And when you live this way, you become resilient, not because life stops hurting, but because you no longer break beneath its weight. You bend, you breathe, you grow. You begin to trust, not in outcomes, but in your ability to meet whatever comes, and in that trust, you open to learning. Every moment becomes a lesson, every encounter a teaching, every joy, every pain, every failure, every success, they are all invitations to deepen your wisdom. In Buddhism, we call this beginner's mind, the mind that is open, curious, humble, the mind that does not pretend to know, but is willing to discover. To learn is to live awake, to be in constant relationship with reality, instead of trying to force it to fit our preconception. You see, wisdom is not static. It is alive, it evolves, and the moment we think we've arrived is the moment we stop growing. Even the Buddha, after his awakening, continued to learn, not facts or doctrines, but the subtle nuances of compassion, patience, and presence. So let us learn to listen, not just to words, but to silence, not just to teachings, but to experience. Let us learn from the way water flows, yielding, yet unstoppable, from the way the tree bends with the wind, and does not break, from the way the breath enters, and leaves without clinging. Let us learn to ask, what is this moment showing me? Because this moment is always teaching, but we must be willing students, and in this learning, we come back again to the heart of it all, happiness, but not the happiness we've been sold, not the fleeting thrill of stimulation, not the brittle joy that depends on everything going right. True happiness, Buddhist happiness, is contentment without condition. It is the peace that arises when we no longer argue with reality, This is not passive, it is not resignation, it is radical acceptance. The kind of acceptance that transforms everything it touches. You don't need the world to be different, you need to see it clearly. You don't need everyone to love you, you need to love yourself wisely. You don't need to escape suffering, you need to understand it. And in that understanding, suffering dissolves, not because it was erased, but because the story around it changed, because you changed, because you remembered who you are, not your resume, not your failures, not your trauma, not your bank account, not your appearance, but the awareness behind all of it, the stillness that watches the storm, the space in which all things rise and fall. That is who you are, and from that space, everything becomes possible. From that space, compassion flows, not as a performance, not as obligation, but as the most natural response to being alive. When you are no longer preoccupied with your own drama, when you are no longer a slave to your cravings and fears, a vast tenderness opens up within you. You begin to see others not as obstacles or assets, but as fellow travelers, hurting, hoping, stumbling, seeking, just like you. The Buddha once said, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. We must begin there, not with shame, not with punishment, but with care, with the gentle recognition that healing is not linear, that you are not broken, and that your suffering is not a sign of failure. It is a doorway. Walk through it. On the other side of that doorway is something ancient, something steady, something free. Do not wait until the world quiets down. Do not wait for a perfect moment. There is no enlightenment in the future. There is no awakening tomorrow. There is only this moment. And this moment is enough. When you are fully present, even the smallest thing can become profound. The sound of birds at dawn, the warmth of tea in your hand, the feeling of your feet on the earth, the rise and fall of the breath. This is life, not the imagined life you think you need, but the real one you're already living. Do not abandon it while chasing illusions. Do not sleep through your own sacred story. Wake up, look around, feel the miracle of simply existing. And yes, there will still be sorrow, there will still be death, and injustice, and disappointment. But these do not cancel joy, they are part of the whole. They deepen it. They remind us that our time is brief, and that our love is the most precious thing we have. This is the great paradox, that freedom is found not in escape, but in intimacy with pain, with joy, with change, with this messy, beautiful, impermanent life. And when we embrace it fully, we no longer ask life to make us happy. We become happiness itself, not as euphoria, but as equanimity, as the still lake beneath the stormy sky, as the quiet center of the spinning wheel. This is the happiness the Buddha pointed to, not something to grasp, but something to return to, again and again and again. You are not missing anything. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are here. You are breathing. You are enough. So let go of the chase. Sit down, close your eyes, feel the breath, feel the body, feel the miracle of this exact moment. No need to fix, no need to force, no need to strive. Just this, just now. Let this be your temple. Let this be your home. And when you forget, as we all do, return gently, lovingly, without shame, because this path is not a line, it is a spiral. And every return is deeper. Every breath is sacred. Every step, even the backward ones, are part of the journey home. The world will offer you many versions of happiness, but most of them are cages in disguise. True happiness asks nothing of you except that you be fully alive, present, honest, awake. And that, perhaps, is the greatest revolution of all. So go now, not to escape the world, but to enter it more fully, to listen with your whole being, to serve not from obligation, but from the overflowing abundance of a peaceful heart. You are the light you've been searching for. You are the calm in the center of the storm. You are the joy that cannot be bought or broken. Live that truth, speak it, share it. The world needs more awakened hearts, and yours is ready.